And now let's turn to another one of India's neighbours, Myanmar. It is in the grip of a civil war-like situation. Rebel groups in the country have joined hands for a multi-pronged attack to take on the military junta. The junta took power in 2021. It ousted the democratically elected government in a coup. But in late October, the rebels began their offensive. And they've been making gains since. The junta is on the back foot, losing town after town. The latest loss was the city of Nam San in the Shan state. It fell on Friday, the day after China announced a ceasefire. Our next report brings you the latest.
Myanmar is in turmoil. Multiple armed ethnic groups in the nation have taken up arms against the junta. Three groups began the offensive on the 27th of October. They call themselves the Three Brotherhood Alliance. They began their offensive in Myanmar's northeastern state of Shan, and the resistance has spread like wildfire. Other rebel groups from around the country have joined the fight. All of them are united in their desire to overthrow Myanmar's military junta.
We have launched attacks against the military to protect the lives of civilians. The main objective is to take down the military dictatorship, which is what Myanmar people always want.
That was a spokesperson for one of the three rebel groups that began this round of fighting. The announcement came after they took over the town of Nam San. It's a provincial capital in the Shan state, one of the many major towns the rebels have captured in the last month and a half. The junta has been losing one base after another. Their troops have been fleeing or surrendering before the advancing rebel forces. The rebels say that even Myanmar's soldiers don't want to fight for the junta.
When we captured military positions, we found that military soldiers had many weapons and ammunition left, but they had abandoned their positions. Military soldiers could fight with these weapons if they wanted, but they decided to run away. It shows that military soldiers don't want to fight under the military dictatorship anymore.
This may just be a way to demoralize the junta's troops. But if it's true, then the question arises, who wants to keep Myanmar's military junta in power? The answer is obvious.
China is happy to see the parties to the conflict in the northern Myanmar hold peace talks and achieve positive results. We are ready to continue to provide support and facilitation to this end.
China has been supporting the junta for years. It also has good ties with some of the ethnic armed groups in Myanmar. Beijing has been advancing its interests by playing all sides in this conflict. So it likely doesn't want the status quo to change. Which is why China has been acting as a mediator, pushing for a ceasefire in Myanmar. It even announced a truce last Thursday. But it looks like Beijing spoke too soon, because the very next day the rebels took over Nam San. There are reports of fighting in other regions as well, like the Rakhine state in the west. Rebels say they've also taken over a junta base in the regional capital, Sittwe. They're also accusing the junta of resorting to indiscriminate bombardment. They say that the military is dropping bombs in civilian areas out of desperation. The fighting in Myanmar has displaced over 300,000 people. Thousands have even fled the country and entered neighboring nations like India. The Indian border states of Mizoram and Manipur have seen a large influx lately. Reports say over 6,000 refugees have now crossed into Manipur. The Chief Minister of the state has expressed concern. He says India cannot take the developments in Myanmar lightly. He says that refugees must be allowed in on humanitarian grounds, but provisions need to be made so that they can return once the fighting is over. However, for that, the fighting needs to stop, and there are no signs of that happening anytime soon.